You make me feel so young.
We met at the club, must have been 14 or 15 years old. We were just part of the same group of friends at the club. And that's basically how we met. I must have been 15, something like that. And Carole would have been 14. No, so I would have been more. I would have been 16. Carole would have been 14. She was just young. I thought, gosh. And that was it. So how many of us were in that group?
About 8.
8 or 10 in the same group. And according to Carole's memory, we went to a friend of ours' wedding separately, but we came out together.
But that was a lot of years later.
That was some years later, that is true.
I don't think, that was when I think I was about 20 and you were about 22, something like that.
Whilst we were a club, we didn't go out together. So as Carole said, this would have been when I was around about 22 and Carole was 20.
2 friends of ours got married, and we all went to the wedding and had a great night out, and then you took me home afterwards, but you can't remember.
I honestly can't remember. I mean, I had a completely different memory, so which I now realise cannot be right, because Carole's put me right. So she is right. We went to the wedding, and then separately, and then we came out together.
And then we started going out.
And we did. It was great fun.
Yep.
And Carole went to college, and I would go down because Carole was at Dartford College, and I would go down regularly. And I remember the first time I went down there formally was for Carole's annual ball. And we went and met the principal, and Carole said to the principal, "Oh, I'd like you to introduce you to my boyfriend, John Kay." And I said, "It's very nice to know. My name's Eric Levene."
That sort of thing happened?
Well, that is true.
Yes?
Yeah. I would go down to Carole's college quite regularly. And when I got to, not Dartford Station, I looked at the timetable, and the last train was, I think, 10:45. So I got there at 10:30. Unknown to me, they'd changed the timetable the week before. So there were no trains. So I started walking home from Dartford to the East End, through Plumstead and Plumstead Cemetery. I was terrified. And I got to Plumstead Station, and the guy said to me, I said, "When's the next train?" And he said, "Oh, in about half an hour." I said, "Which way does it go?" He said, "It goes through Dartford." He said, So I went all the way, this is true, I went all the way back to Dartford into London. Yeah, I got back home at 6 in the morning.
When I left college and I was teaching, that's when we started going out a lot more. And certainly 2 nights a week, or certainly one night a week, we would go to Brady and started helping again as managers. And really got very involved and thoroughly enjoyed it. And they were forever having, at that time, different leaders coming and going. And so they needed people not only to help with skeet weekends, but if they were going to have holidays, they needed people to run them.
Which is what we did. But prior to that, before we got married, we decided to drive to Israel.
Oh, yes.
With a couple of friends. So we were in this Vauxhall Viva, right? And we drove through Austria, what was then Yugoslavia, and we got to the Yugoslav border.
With Bulgaria.
We'd gone through, Bulgaria. We went through Zagreb and Belgrade. It's really exciting. And then we thought, well, we'll drive through the night so that we can spend some more time in Bulgaria the following day. Unfortunately, I fell asleep at the wheel and veered off the road into a ditch. And nobody was hurt, but the car ended up halfway up a tree. So we all got out and we walked to the nearest. But we could only have been about a mile from the Bulgarian border. So we got to the border.
You and I?
The two of us went to the border to try and get some help, because we needed the car being taken out of the ditch. And about 2 or 3 hours later, we saw a group coming from the local town to help, and another group coming from the Bulgarian border to help. And I thought, there's going to be a punch-up. You know, who's going to be the team to drag us out? Anyway, the point being is that we was dragged out, and the car was taken to the nearest town, which is a little godforsaken place called Pirot. Right? It was awful. And the car was left outside the hotel, well, what you could call a hotel. Next morning we got up, the tyres had been stolen.
The seats?
And then the seat had been stolen. And then they tried to get the steering wheel off. Well, they couldn't do that. In the meantime, we'd rung the insurance company. The upshot was that the insurance company arranged for the car to be taken back to England.
And we said, it's ridiculous, it's just a shell. And they said, no, it was the 5-star AA in those days.
It was 5-star, yeah.
And they said, with 5-star AA, we can take the car back.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We stayed in this dump of a hotel. Carole and I were in one room, and our friends were in another. Separate beds, I hasten to add. And we heard this whirring noise. I thought, what the hell's that? And I got out of bed and I opened the door where the whirring was come from. It was a projection room from the cinema next door. It was...
The whole place was weird.
We obviously couldn't go to Israel, so we got on the train. That's a good story. We were at the Bulgarian border, and the idea was that we should have waited for the car to be taken off, right? The border guards had taken our passports. We had a tent, this massive tent that was on the top of the roof rack, and the train was coming in. The car hadn't been picked up.
They wouldn't give us our passports.
They wouldn't give us our passport. So I said to Carole and the other two people, I said, get on the train, I'm going to see if I can get the passports. And they got on the train, and as the guards went one way, I went into the guards' room, stole the 4 passports, jumped back on the train and hid, and all 4 of us hid under chairs.
And we escaped.
And we escaped, yeah.
And then we spent the next 4 weeks camping in Yugoslavia, which was very nice. And then, except for, I felt not very confident about some of the cooking. Our cooking didn't seem to be nearly as good as our friends who were cooking. And I was getting a bit fed up that I was really trying hard, doing this and doing that. And then one particular night, I asked you to get a couple of ingredients, and we threw them in. And what were meant to be, I presume, mild peppers ended up as chilies and something else. Anyway, the whole thing was inedible. And I was just really upset and had a tantrum and ran down the mountain. And Eric chased me down and said...
Well, I suppose we might as well get married.
No, you said, I'm not marrying you now.
Well, words to that effect, yeah. But, you see, the point was we were running out of money. And about 10 minutes from where the campsite was a casino. And Carole said, well, let's go to the casino for the evening.
We might as well blow the money.
Blow the money we've got. Well, Carole just happened to be pretty good at roulette. And I can't remember how much we won, but it was enough to spend the next 2 nights in the hotel. And then when we got back on the boat to come back, we had enough money for luxury food as well. It was fantastic. I don't know how much you must have taken.
I did quite well.
50 to £100, which in those days was a lot of money. Yeah.
But you made very little of what was meant to be your proposal, which was as we were going down the mountain, you shouting after me.
Yeah, well, I couldn't remember. I can't always remember these things.
So, well, I'm not going to ask you to marry me now, am I? I said, you what? I'm not going to ask you to marry me. And everyone's going, yes!
Did I say that?
Yes.
Oh, fair enough.
So when we came back, we decided that maybe we'd get married. Might as well get married. It'd be quite fun.
I had to do the right thing, of course. So I went to Yogi. I said, Yogi, I'm doing the right thing. Can I have your permission to marry Carole? And he said to me, oh, you have to ask your mother-in-law.
He said, I pretend.
He had a bottle of champagne ready.
He said, I pretend I didn't hear that.
No, his words to me were, he said, don't do it. He says, I've known her longer than you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that was it.
So everything was lots of jokes, lots of laughter, and a lot of fun. And a lot of curries.
And a lot of curries.
It's about right, isn't it?
It is.
Do you remember the date we got married, Eric?
It was. I knew Carole was going to ask this question. It was probably February the 16th.
Very good. Very good. That is when we got married. 16th of February 1969. And we decided it would be quite fun to go skiing for our honeymoon. Neither of us had skied before, and we thought, why not? So we stayed in a beautiful hotel in, where did we go?
Gargellen.
It was quite picturesque, the whole thing. And the first day we were quite successful. We did quite well, really, I think, don't you?
Yeah, we did. I mean, I was looking really good, but was useless. Carole looked awful, but she was brilliant. No, I'm just saying, we can cut that bit out later.
I don't
But
mind.
Carole was far better than I was, there's no doubt.
And then what happened on the second day?
You tell them.
On the second day, we're going down, and I was sort of snow ploughing gently as we weren't very good yet. And I noticed Eric wasn't with me. And I turned around and could see he was fallen over, and he was about halfway up the slope. Can't call it a mountain at that point. And I said, "You okay?" And your words were?
I'm spouting.
No, louder than that.
I'm spouting.
It's...
Well, what happened was that I'd fallen over and I'd cut my wrist on the side of the ski.
He ran over his own arm.
Basically ran over. And there was blood pouring, I must admit, there was a lot of blood. Probably not as much as I thought it was, but it was... Anyway, so I had to go down to the local docks. Now, normally, I mean, here, they would just put a clip in and pin it and put a... I came back with my arm in plaster.
So that was the second day of the skiing. He wasn't allowed to ski
for a cut on
again.
my wrist. Yeah, so I wasn't allowed to ski again. So we did a lot of walking.
We had a brilliant time.
We did have a
Brilliant
good time, I must admit.
Brilliant time. And then, what about some of the times at club? How much did club influence us?
I don't think it influenced, because we were so involved anyway, I don't think there was a great deal of difference. But we took weekends away, we took holidays abroad. We went to Yugoslavia, or back to Yugoslavia, and Italy. And we helped at the camps. Carole ran the girls' side.
Yes.
And I just helped with the boys' side.
But I think it did influence me, because I saw Eric leading groups and relating to other people other than me. And I liked the way he was with other people. He was never telling them what to do. He was mucking and joking, and giving them such a good time. And I think all those things do influence you. So
yeah, I mean, Carole, because Carole was so good at organising people.
Bossy.
I wasn't going to say bossy, because that would be unreasonable.
I was my father's daughter.
You were father's daughter, a brilliant organiser, you know. But it was natural, you know. It wasn't a question of, no, you didn't bully anybody.
No.
No, that's not your nature. It never was. You just tell them what to do. No, but you would do the same thing. You would muck in with everybody.
Yeah.
It's not a question of standing around and saying, you do this, you do that. Carole just got involved. She was brilliant.
And we had as good a time as, the kids, always.
I mean, I was about to say, I think our favourite story was shortly after we got married, our first camp together, we had a bell tent, right? And of course the post is in the middle. And we were trying to get a double bed.
On one side of
the tent, which was, unfortunately, there was a massive downpour. I mean, the heavens, was it Charmouth or?
I don't know.
There was an absolute downpour. So instead of being in bed tucked up safely, we were out with our mallets trying to knock in tents, tent pegs.
All night long.
And one of the guys who was helping had been there 2 nights. It rained so much, he said, I'm going home. And he just left the next morning. Yeah. So,
you were telling about 3 stories in one then. You were starting off about the double bed you were trying to erect.
Yeah, but halfway through the story I completely forgot. I completely forgot what I was going to say. So there's no point carrying on.
You've still forgotten?
I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. I can't remember.
Do you know who I am?
I'm not sure. I can't remember what we ever did with the bed in the end. Oh, gosh.
Very, very nice times.
We did. We had good times.
And then without the club, we also had good fun without the club, didn't we?
That is true. We were so involved and caught up with the club and our own lives. They just intermingled. Because if we weren't at the club, then we might well have been out with friends of ours from the club.
And in fact, we stopped helping at the club when I was pregnant
Yeah.
and having Charlotte. And then we really decided it was just more difficult when we'd got little children to be as involved. And we, in a way, when I say drifted away, we didn't have the same commitment of going down to the club anymore, but we were, just as supportive and cared just as much, but your life
true.
just goes along other paths.
And here we are today, sitting on a bed in Southgate, telling you our life story.
And what about Brady? Any more about... Yeah, I was going to say that really the only links we then maintain with Brady, and also, apart from a very few friends, but most of our involvement with Brady completely stopped as our children were in their younger years, until we decided to do a weekend away twice a year, I think it was, at Skeet with our friends and their families, which we did together for a few years, and then Eric continued for a few more years, which was wonderful because it gave our kids a taste of everything we'd been through with Brady at Skeet, and they just loved it. It was really fabulous.
Oh yeah, I mean, and in fact, a lot of our friends who didn't go to Brady, they took their kids there, and it changed their lives as well.
Yeah.
It was just fantastic.
Really good.
Yeah.
And it's been a big special place for the girls now when they talk about it, and they really, really loved it.
Yeah. I think the only other involvement, until we got involved with yourself, and this was me doing the 1996 100th anniversary of the club show. But once that finished, that was really the end of our involvement with the
Brady.
club.
And that's why when we came down to the East End and saw your photos in the window of the Cass, we just were so excited because we recognised that it was the right era, we were in the right place at the right time. Just phenomenal.
Oh, just luck.
And
just brilliant.
From there, really, with you, we met. Then invited other people to come down. We all met. We had that chaotic afternoon with you at the Cass.
It was fantastic.
And you thought, my God, you'd never heard such energy or people who were just so emotionally involved with these few photos. And that was the beginning of the project.
Yeah. And
what's happened in this last 2 years, Sue, is we've just absolutely loved the project and getting involved with some people we hadn't seen for so many years.
Yeah.
And it's been very, very special because they are like a family of long lost relatives.
yeah, no, it's been absolutely brilliant. And I think the new project is fantastic because it is a continuation of that youth work. But the idea of linking up with
Current users.
the current users and the local community is really, from our point of view, what it's all about. So you can continue youth work, just put in as much effort as we possibly can.
And I think it's wonderful to see the old club being used in such a positive way with young people and other people. It's so active, it's really vibrant, and that's very important to us. And similarly, that such exciting youth work is actually happening, and what we'd like to see is share this as widely as we can, because somehow the message of the importance of working with young people and the experience of young people has just, we've got to talk to the influencers and send that message home, because young people need it these days more than ever.
I think that's true. And, actually doing something for the future. It's all very well that we've been very nostalgic over the last 2 or 3 years. But the idea that we can do something for the future, to me, is more important than just looking back all the time.
And a wonderful thing to be flung even though I'm old and gray. I'm gonna feel the way I do